Pass the test. Learn fast, pass confident.
Welcome back. Today, we're diving into questions 21 through 40 of the USCIS Civics test. But, instead of just running through a list, we're going to do something a little different. We're going on a tour of the US government. Trust me, thinking about it this way makes all these facts stick together so much better. You ready? Let's get started. So here's our itinerary. Our tour is broken down into the 3 big branches of government. Following this map will really help connect the dots between all these different roles and powers. And our first stop is the legislative branch.
Welcome to where our laws are made. The U.S. Congress is actually made of 2 parts. You've got the House of Representatives and the Senate. And our first few questions are going to focus right here.
Okay, first question up, and it's a number. The House of Representatives has how many voting members? I'll give you a second.
The answer is 435. Now, what's interesting is that this number is fixed, but the number of representatives each state gets can actually change. It all depends on the state's population, which they count in the census. All right, that leads us right into how long people serve and who they represent. So, first question, we elect a U.S. representative for how many years? What do you think? The answer is a 2-year term. Now let's hop over to the Senate. Who does a U.S. Senator represent? Well, they represent all the people of their entire state. So that brings up a really good question, right? Why do some states have more representatives than other states? It all comes down to a concept called apportionment. Basically, it just means that representation is based on how many people live in a state. More people means more representatives. Simple as that.
Okay, this next question is all about you. Name your U.S. representative. Now, obviously, I can't answer this one for you because it totally depends on where you live in your specific congressional district. So the answer is going to be different for everyone.
All right, tour's moving on. Let's head over to the executive branch. This is the part of the government that's in charge of carrying out the laws that Congress writes. And of course, this is the world of the president and the vice president.
So let's talk about the election cycle. First up, we elect a president for how many years? That's right, it's a 4-year term. And in what month do we vote for the president? That happens in November.
Okay, now for who is in charge right now. What is the name of the President of the United States now? And what is the name of the Vice President? All right, according to our source material, the answers are Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. But this is so important. These names change with elections, so you absolutely have to know who is currently in office when you take your test.
So what happens if the president can't serve anymore? Who becomes president? The answer is the vice president. But what if both the president and the vice president can no longer serve? Who's next in line? Well, then the responsibility goes to the Speaker of the House. Okay, I've got a little pop quiz for you. I'm going to ask 3 questions, but they all have the same answer. You ready? First, who is the commander-in-chief of the military? Second, who signs bills to make them become laws? And third, who vetoes bills? The answer to all 3 of those is the president.
Now, the president has a whole team of top advisors to help out, and that brings us to our next question. What does the president's cabinet do?
It's a pretty straightforward but incredibly important job. The president's cabinet advises the president. These are the experts that give the president guidance on all sorts of huge national and international issues. So, can you name 2 cabinet-level positions? There are quite a few, but 2 great examples are the Attorney General and the Vice President.
And for the final stop on our tour, we've arrived at the judicial branch. This is the whole system of federal courts, and their job is to interpret the laws of the land.
So, let's start with the big picture. What does the judicial branch do? What's its main purpose?
Its main job is to review our laws. It settles legal arguments and, maybe most importantly, decides if a law actually violates the Constitution. This power is a massive part of our government's system of checks and balances.
Now, at the very, very top of this entire branch, there is one court that has the final say. What is the highest court in the United States?
You got it. It's the Supreme Court. When they make a decision, it's final. It sets the standard for every other court in the country. So, speaking of the Supreme Court, how many justices are on the Supreme Court? The answer is 9. And that brings us to our final question for this practice session. Who is the Chief Justice of the United States now? This person is the head of the entire judicial branch. According to our source, the current Chief Justice is John Roberts. And just like with the president, remember, this is a name that can change, so always make sure you know who the current Chief Justice is.
So there we have it. We've just toured all three branches of government. We've seen the legislative, the executive, and the judicial branches, and we've seen how each one has its own specific powers. So the real question, the big takeaway, is this: how does splitting power up like this actually protect our freedoms? That's the whole idea behind the entire system. It's something really important to think about. Thanks for joining me on the tour.
Excellent work today. You just practiced questions 21 through 40 of the USCIS Civics test, with extra explanation to help you really understand, not just memorize. Keep practicing with our other videos until you cover all 100 questions. And remember to subscribe to Pass the Test for more guided practice and important immigration updates. You're making great progress. Keep it up.